anything has to do with the gospel of life, you'll find Father Frank Pavone there. Father, welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show. We'd like to get your take on the letter by Archbishop Viganò, the letter of support, of encouragement that he gave to President Trump. I thought that was such an act of charity, so biblical. What the St. Paul says: pray and encourage one another. Pray for those in leadership. I just find Archbishop Viganò to be very Pauline in his approach with this letter. What does Father Pavone say?
Yes, a good observation. I have the letter here. I was really delighted to see it. And it really is a call to prayer. I mean, when you think about it, if you want to boil it down in its essence, it's a call to prayer. It's a call to all Americans, to all Catholics, to all people of goodwill, to prayer. Why? For the same reason that the gospel calls us to prayer. As the Gospel of John begins by explaining, the light came into the world, Jesus Christ, the Word made flesh, and there were some who loved darkness instead. Now, the gospel doesn't make any distinction. It doesn't say that, those who hate the darkness are, they're the ones who are outside of the church. No, what Archbishop Viganò is pointing out is was something that we all already know, is that the division between light and darkness is also within the church, as he says, and I just tweeted out, the quote here, my favorite quote of the whole letter: just as there is a deep state, there is also a deep church. This is so true. And the division between light and darkness runs through the church. It runs through our families. It runs through our hearts. So this should be no surprise. It's very biblical. It's very Pauline, like you said, and it's very needed at this moment in time.
Father Frank,
Harry.
One of the things he said in the letter, he congratulated the president, he says, who's courageously defending the right to life, who's not ashamed to denounce the persecution of Christians throughout the world, and who speaks of Jesus Christ and the right of citizens to freedom of worship. He said, your participation at the March for Life, and more recently, your proclamation of the month of April as the National Child Abuse Prevention Month, are actions that confirm which side you wish to fight on. And I dare to believe that both of us are in the same side in this battle, a bit with different weapons. I thought that little paragraph really said a lot there about Mr. President's view, and also the Catholic view about the sacredness of life, and also religious freedom he talked about. Tell me, Father Frank, do you really think that President Trump is going to be able to read this letter? And tell me if you've made any outreaches to him for that.
I certainly have. I did that right away when I saw the letter, and I can tell you right now, I'm very, very confident. If he hasn't actually read it already, he will be reading it soon with his own eyes, and he will respond, I'm sure, with his gratitude. He's always he means this. He's very, very grateful when people say they are praying to him. On the night he was elected, he called one of the pastors that ministers to him personally. And when he saw the results of this miraculous election in 2016, he called this pastor and he said, it was the prayers, because nothing else could explain it.
That's right.
And he knows the power of prayer. He appreciates the commitment of people to pray for him. And I mean, look, this is biblical. Yeah. We are commanded to pray for those in authority. It doesn't command us to pray just for those in authority that we agree with politically. I mean, when President Obama was in office, we prayed for him.
Absolutely.
We pray for everybody, especially in public office, because you know what Paul's letter to the Romans says, that they are ministers of God. It's not just we, the clergy, who are ministers of God. Those in public office are ministers of God, simply from the point of view that any legitimate authority that has been established by God. And so that's where, they're serving the people. They are serving the just order of society that God himself has put in place.
Well said.
Father, one of the things that Archbishop Viganò says in the letter twice, he mentions and he tells the president about this deep state that's not only in society, but it's also in the church. He says, he uses the term Masonic twice.
That's right.
Yes, he does.
It will not be surprising if in a few months we learn once again that hidden behind these acts of vandalism and violence, there are those who hope to profit from the dissolution of the social order so as to build a world without freedom. And then he uses a word in Latin, solve et coagula. He says this is the Masonic, as the Masonic adage teaches. I looked that word up, solve et coagula. It's a motto which means basically something must be broken down before it can be built up again.
Right.
And then he says it again. He uses the term Masonic again. He says to the president, he says, they are subservient to the deep state, to globalism, to align thought to the New World Order, which they invoke ever more frequently in the name of a universal brotherhood, which has nothing Christian about it, but which evokes the Masonic ideals of those who want to dominate the world by driving God out of the courts, out of schools, out of families, and perhaps even out of churches. Boy, he sounds like Saint Maximilian Kolbe. He sounds like, he sounds like Saint Padre Pio. And to me, Father, this comports with what the Catechism talks about in paragraph 675. I'm sure you've seen it. It's one of those eschatological paragraphs. And I'm looking at Viganò's letter, and 675 of the Catechism, it says, before Christ's second coming, the church must pass through a final trial that will shake the faith of many believers. Then he talks about the persecution that accompanies her pilgrimage on earth will unveil the mystery of iniquity in the form of a religious deception. To me, the religious deception, as I see it more and more, it's Mason. It's the Freemason infiltration in society, in our government, and in the church. And the Catechism says, in the form of a religious deception, offering men an apparent solution to their problems. Yeah, they offer the solution is socialism. That's our solution. Climate change and reduce the population through abortion. That's their solution. The Catechism says, however, they offer men an apparent solution to their problems at the price of apostasy from the truth. I see that Archbishop Viganò sees the big picture. These globalists, these Masonic globalists, want to implement a social disorder, the disorder of Western civilization, and they're going to get churchmen to apostatize from the truth. And many churchmen are walking hook, line, and sinker behind this Masonic agenda. That's what I see Archbishop Viganò conveying to our president, kind of like sounding the bells.